economic numbers come out in terms of how many jobs we lost. Republicans immediately come out, obviously, all the statements blasting it. But when you go inside the numbers, 159,000 jobs that we lost were government jobs. I thought Republicans like smaller government.
Come on.
No. I put this on Twitter, and I found it interesting. If Republicans like smaller government and they say it's grown too fast, hell, those are jobs they should want to see us getting rid of.
Look, we should not have had those government job programs in the first place.
Well, first of all, a lot of census jobs.
That's always been part of the problem, is who should be providing the jobs, and it's the private sector. Why? Because the private sector is what keeps the American engine going. The American government can't. Ain't we losing money now because of it? That's the very problem that we're in. The problem with the Republicans' response to what the Democrats was doing was kind of like there was no response. For a year and a half, and it's only been in the recent months leading up to the midterms that Republicans have finally said, oh, guess we need to come up with a plan. The Tea Partiers, meanwhile, are
the Republican, to be honest.
Well, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
Gotcha.
The Tea Partiers are the ones who are hoisting a plan upon the Republicans and Democrats. Remember, they're a large part of this anti-incumbency move that started 2.5 years ago.
Absolutely.
So both of them are still a little scared right now.
Oh, Roland, what it is, though, is it shows the shell game that Washington often plays. The census jobs, you're absolutely right. When the stimulus happened and they could say we created all these new jobs, and then they peel off the rolls, and that's why I would agree with you. The private sector's, I think, a better barometer of what's really going on in our economy, because the government can move jobs around. 1 minute you have them, 1 minute you don't. And I think that's really what you see happening.
Well, I'll tell you what, some folks in the private sector are saying the same thing, moving jobs around. But the administration comes out and says that, wait a minute, we've had 9 consecutive months of private sector job growth. In September, 64,000 jobs. Now, when you talk to Robert Wright, former labor secretary, he says, look, we need about 150 to 200,000 jobs a month to keep up. But I would think that some progress is actual progress.
That's true. And the other thing is that look at what would have happened if we hadn't done what we're doing. We're not just talking about growth of government jobs. We are talking about private sector jobs. Even the CBO says we would be between 1.4 million to 3 million jobs short if we did not have the stimulus. So I don't understand what the Republicans would have done. You can say we would have had no response and had 3 million jobs fewer, or we could have done what we did. What's the Republican response?
But that's part of the blame game. What would have happened if this hadn't happened? The bottom line is that the stimulus didn't work. And now as voters, what Americans have to decide is who has a plan. But the stimulus didn't work.
Hold on 1 second. I want you to come to this, because I understand your point, but when I hear that phrase, it didn't work. Well, then the question then becomes is, okay, well, what are some people thinking? What do they want to see actually happen? When you talk to folks on the Democratic side, as Van said, they say, look, we actually saved jobs with various projects. I remember the police cadet class in Columbus, Ohio. I was there when they cut that class. I was talking to the mayor, Michael Coleman, and he said, man, we don't have the money. The stimulus plan actually saved that class to going through. So the question is, when you hear that phrase, it didn't work, how do you respond to it?
Well, you respond to it by saying the fact that it did work, even though 9.6% unemployment is the lowest unemployment that is the highest level of unemployment we've had consistently since the Depression. But without the stimulus package, and in fact the stimulus package should have been larger, the unemployment rate would have been well into 11, 12%. And you have to also take into account, not only is unemployment a problem, underemployment is a problem, as well as poverty is a problem. And when you take that whole thing into account, the situation is much more dire than just 9.6% unemployment.
But here's the deal, though.
We're not being honest about it.
I asked Cecilia Rouse this question, our newsmaker at the outset. Was it a mistake for the Obama administration to say that when these things go through, unemployment will go down to 8%? So when we say it doesn't work, isn't that the real issue? They made various pronouncements saying this is going to happen if we get this, and then that didn't happen.
Exactly. That's part of the problem.
But I
would not dare go into parts of the city right now, including parts of Southeast Washington, where there's a 30% unemployment rate, and tell them, yes, the stimulus plan worked. It did not work.
Absolutely.
Now, there are millions of people
who have been
out of, wait a minute, there are millions of people who only lost their job after Obama became president and have already stopped looking for work because they can't find it. And those people were not even clouded in that 9.6.
You can't say after Obama became president. We know this thing started in September of 2008, and when Obama took office, we know that we were losing jobs at an extreme rate, but it had already started that fall, and I think all of us would intellectually agree that's true.
So that ball was already rolling down here.
It was, and I think we ought to just be honest about that. But having said that, your point is exactly right. The 9.6 number is really not a true number. Black unemployment, black male unemployment is at, in some places, 35% and higher. It just hit 16.7% today. Black females dropped down to just about 13%. So black people have gotten destroyed in this recession. Let me be clear about that.
And the point there that has to be understood is that going into Southeast D.C. and seeing 30% unemployment, that's a systemic problem.
Which has been going on.
Which is why I brought in the poverty. I'm trying to. I will help you. I will help you. There's a reality that has to be understood that the issue is much broader than 9.6%. That the issue is a poverty issue that is systemic, and that even after the rate goes from 9.6 down to 7 or down to 6, you are still going to have a substantive amount of people in this country that are, particularly black people and Latinos, that are underemployed and unemployed. And the question becomes, what are you going to do long term to raise the quality of living for everyone in this country?
And I'll make this point: when you have blacks and Latinos and they have such a high dropout rate, as a direct correlation to that long term to folks who are operating in poverty. And so let's just own up to that.